most of you know, we're in this series of God and culture, and we're hitting some hot topics. I'm loving it because it's reinforcing truth that I know, but giving me some points of reference to, sometimes I think we know things, but we don't really know why we believe them, or we need to be reminded of those things. Well, this morning I have the privilege of welcoming to you the lady who's going to speak to us today. She was born, or I don't know if she's born, she was raised in Whitefish, and she lives in the Valley, and she is, I would say, one of our heroes in the Valley because she ministers to people. And she leads a team that minister to people. She teaches kids about sexuality and identity and about choices that they make if people become pregnant all of a sudden and they don't know what to do. They educate them. And more than just going through the systems, she really loves on people and she has a heart for people. I said, what would you communicate? She said, I love God, I love people, and I love that I get to partner with God in serving at Hope Pregnancy Ministries. So if you would stand to your feet and welcome our speaker today, Michelle Reimer, to the stage.
Well, good morning. I brought all my stuff, starting with my tissues. I thought I could handle second service worship better than first service, but I've been a puddle of tears all morning, and I think part of it was opening with the song Reckless Love. I was going over that song yesterday with my granddaughter who's leading it at our home church this morning, and this morning the words really struck me in terms of how they relate to what we're going to be talking about today. And so I just pulled the words up, and we've been repeating it all morning, so I think this is going to be the refrain that's going through your head all week. I hope so, because the bridge is so powerful that it says, there's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down coming after me. And if we're talking about the topic of abortion, we know we're fighting against a lie. It's a lie that Satan has put out there really since the beginning of time, that we aren't worth it, that life isn't worth it, that life isn't beautiful, that people don't matter. But we know that God can change that. And we know that he will continue pursuing us no matter what we've done, no matter what lie we've told or decision we've made or thing we've done. And as we talk this morning about a topic that's so tough, I just want to tell you that you have a friend in me. We have walked with so many women and men through this painful decision of abortion right here in your town, likely with people in your church, people you know, people you love. I was speaking with a woman after first service, and she said, I think people don't realize how this touches all of us. And so I'm just going to start this service by asking you, by a show of hands, how many of you know someone who's had an abortion? Okay, that's more than typical. If you aren't raising your hand, I just want to tell you that you should be, because you definitely know someone who's had an abortion. You just don't know that you know. Because abortion isn't something we talk about. It's something that we bury and hide and keep pressing down so that we don't have to face it, because it's probably one of the hardest things that we have to forgive ourselves for. And so if you look around this room, I can promise you that you're looking into the eyes of women and men who have made the difficult decision to have an abortion. And they have suffered pain beyond what any of you could ever imagine if you haven't walked that road. And I want you to know that we come to this conversation with so much compassion and so much grace for you who have walked through this decision, and that there is no shadow he won't light up to come after you and pursue you to find a place of peace and true joy, yes, even after your abortion. And so we're going to talk about kind of the whole gamut this morning. But I just want you to know I love you. And I believe that you can find a place of hope and healing no matter what you've been through. I've been with Hope Pregnancy Ministries for 17 years now, going right in my 17th year. And what a privilege it's been to walk through some of the most difficult times with women and men as they make this decision. And as I've learned more and spoken to groups and heard from people, I think I've realized that we just don't talk about this enough. Many Christians haven't formed even a strong Christian worldview of this topic, and I think it's because it's avoided largely. And so I was so pleased when your church asked me to come and devote this kind of time to a topic that's just really tough. But until we develop a Christian worldview about abortion, until we understand why we believe what we believe and can articulate that, I'm not sure anything's going to change. We live in a culture of lies, a culture of death. I mean, it sounds like a real downer. Love Jesus, and I have a lot of joy. But when I'm talking about this topic, there's no way of getting around it. Abortion only could come from Satan. There is no way around that. God believes in the sanctity of life. And so how are we going to form a worldview around that? I think I thought it was going to be easier after Roe versus Wade was overturned about a year and a half ago. It was something that I thought I would never see in my lifetime. I said that out loud, and then I was proven wrong, and I'd never been so glad to be proven wrong. But I want you to know that the Dobbs decision didn't change anything in Montana. As a matter of fact, it's made it harder for us to walk women through and help them to see a life-affirming decision, which is the goal of Hope Pregnancy Ministries. We were founded in 1999 as a place to offer positive alternatives to abortion. And we do that through two avenues, always through under the umbrella of compassion. We look at ourselves as a compassion ministry, really more than a pro-life ministry. We come at this from a place of walking with people through their darkest days. Some of them make a life-affirming decision. Some of them choose to go on and have an abortion, but no matter what, we are there for them, and we'll walk them all the way through the process, holding their hand, making sure that if their bodies aren't okay, their hearts are. The Dobbs decision has made it harder because women can now get the abortion pill through the mail. No doctor appointment required, no ultrasound required. They don't even need to look someone in the eye to, have a pregnancy test or have any kind of education. Order the abortion pill through the mail, go home and do that on your own with no medical care. We have states across the nation that are called sanctuary states or safe havens for abortion. Think about those words, safe haven and abortion. Those two things don't go together, but that's the lie that's being told. What we're facing and what we're fighting against are restrictions, new restrictions that the states are trying to implement on pregnancy medical clinics like ours. And so as we look at all of these things and as our culture is changing and the laws are shifting, how do we go about doing our job? How do we as a church go about helping women and men who are facing this situation? And one of the reasons I was so proud of Pastor Lance for bringing up this topic, although he did then leave town. So I was like, that's weird. But I was so proud of him for bringing this topic up because pastors avoid it because it feels political or legal, and they don't want to go there. They don't want to go into the political. Christians should not be looking at abortion as a political issue. We should be looking at it as a moral issue. There is black and white here. And so as a church, let's talk about how we can define the sanctity of human life, how we can look at what the Bible says and then walk it out. I actually looked up the word sanctity. I've been talking about the sanctity of human life for almost 2 decades. But sanctity means holiness. God looks at life as holy. And we at Hope Pregnancy Ministries look at the sanctity of life as the sanctity of all human life, the elderly, the infirm, and the unborn. As I've sat with women, hundreds and hundreds of women who are considering abortion, I think if I've boiled it all the way down, what I've learned is that the women that we're serving who are seeking to end the lives of their children have not discovered the sanctity of their own life. They haven't ever understood that they matter. They come to us broken. They come to us abused. They come to us so afraid. Fear is the driving factor in women having an abortion. But I think it's this lack of belief in the fact that they can do the hard things. No one's taught them that. No one's walked them through that. And so we need to help raise up little ones to understand the sanctity of human life, so that we know, and we've had that ingrained in us, that all life matters. And then the idea of abortion would become unthinkable if we truly, truly believed that. The Bible's very clear about life. You know, in my business, Psalm 139 is our favorite scripture of all, right? You know, it talks about God forming us in our mother's womb. It's true. We know that. I was an OB nurse before I did this. I've watched and helped hundreds and hundreds of babies be born. And I'm pretty sure I cried at every delivery, because you can't watch a baby be born. I mean, I guess you can watch a baby born and not believe in God, but I think that takes maybe more faith than believing that there's a creator. God knit us together in our mother's womb. John 3:16 makes it clear. He loves us so much, he sent his son. Imagine sending your son to die for someone else. To me, that tells me he believes in our values so much. He gave up his most precious thing for us. And for those of you in this room, and I know there are some, if not many of you, who have suffered the pain of abortion, either yourself or by participating in abortion, paying for an abortion, pressuring someone to have an abortion. The Bible talks about that too. I love Psalm 86:5 that says, "For you, Lord, are good and ready to forgive, and abundant in mercy to all who call on you." There's no shadow he won't light up, mountain he won't climb up, coming after you. Many pregnancies are unplanned. Some say up to 40% of all pregnancies are unplanned. But no child is truly unwanted. I've sat with women who thought they couldn't do this. And again, I think that comes mostly out of fear. I'm afraid that I don't have the money. I'm afraid that I don't have the support. Many in broken marriages, many unmarried, alone, with parents that they are pretty sure are going to kill them if they find out they're pregnant. That's never happened in my 17 years, by the way. But what I would say to you there is that I also see women on the other side of abortion who have looked me in the eye and said, "I can't imagine my life without this child." We just have to get them through that hard time, that fearful time when the world is saying to them, just end it. It's no big deal. Quick fix. Order the abortion pill through the mail. Have a quick and easy fix there. What should our response as a church be to abortion? James 1:27 says, "Religion that God our Father accepts as pure and faultless is this, to look after orphans and widows in their distress." And I really do believe that that's a mandate that God gave to the church, the global church. We at Hope Pregnancy Ministries want to take that burden off of the church, and as a parachurch organization, really do look at it as our responsibility in this community to do that work for this church, for my church, for the Church of the Flathead Valley. And we do that through 2 branches in Hope Pregnancy Ministries. One is Hope Family Resource Center. We started there. It's our roots. It's where we started with a little baby boutique and baby clothes and diapers and things that moms and dads need, just a support system. And as we grew and developed a medical clinic, that's where most pregnancy resource centers closed down. Most organizations like ours don't have both a medical clinic and a resource center, but we think it's so important to follow these women and men, these mommies and daddies, and to not leave them alone, that we've kept both branches of the ministry open. And Hope Family Resource Center provides mentorship and education and material resources for women and men, moms and dads, from the time they find out they're pregnant until their baby's 2 years old. And they go through a curriculum of parenting. I think we have over 300 classes they can take that just teach them how to be better moms, better dads, better citizens. We'll help them with budgeting, how to apply for a job, how to dress for a job interview, how to potty train, boundaries, discipline, all the things. And as they do that, they earn mommy dollars and daddy bucks to spend in our baby boutique. And they don't go in there and get used clothes and walk out with an old Walmart bag full of somebody else's junk. They go into a beautiful boutique that just by its very look says you're loved, you're valued. It looks like an upscale boutique where they get brand new or very gently used baby things that they take home in a beautiful purple bag, and they can walk out with their head held high saying, I earned this because I came to the class, I did my homework, I met with my mentor, and I'm doing the work to be a better parent. And we're super proud of our clients at Hope Family Resource Center. The other branch of Hope Pregnancy Ministries is Clear Choice Clinic, and we do keep those distinctly separate. 17 years ago, when I came along to open the medical clinic, we decided that on the front-facing side to our patients, we wanted to remain very neutral. We wanted to not be that Christian clinic where if you walk in, well, number one, if you're seeking an abortion, you're probably not going to come to a Christian clinic because that feels scary. It might feel like someone's going to thump you over the head with a Bible and tell you that you're sinning. So we've kept it very separate from Hope Pregnancy Ministries. And on the outside, you see Clear Choice Clinic, which is an accredited medical clinic. We've jumped through every hoop there is to become excellent, to have that very highest quality of care, all trained medical professionals, and we have a very broad scope of care. I want you to know that we don't market Clear Choice Clinic. And have you heard our radio ads? Anybody? They're really neutral, and a lot of people call us thinking that we might be an abortion clinic, and I want you to know there's not a bait and switch there. While we don't present the gospel with every patient that comes in the door, our goal is to welcome every patient that walks through the door and look for an open door to talk about the gospel. But I would say in most of our appointments, we don't ever mention the name of Jesus, but we show the love of Christ through our actions and through the words that we share. St. Francis of Assisi said, preach the gospel at all times, and when necessary, use words. And that's how we look at that at Hope Family at Clear Choice Clinic. We have a very broad scope of care. We started by doing pregnancy testing and ultrasound to show the woman what was going on in her body, give her an idea of how far along she was. That would help her know if an abortion was possible or what type of abortion she'd be looking at. Obviously, we couple that with options education so that she understands kind of the good, bad, and ugly of all three of her options, and we do talk about all three of her options because we feel like it's very important for her to make the decision on her own, her and hopefully her partner. We don't twist anyone's arm. We don't give them our opinion. We are very fact-based, evidence-based education that educates and informs women and men to make decisions, and then we leave it up to them to make the decision. And let me tell you, that's really painful a lot of the time. It's very hard to know that I've just done an ultrasound and looked at that child, and she's going to leave and make a decision to end that child's life. But ultimately, we know it's her decision, and we have to let her make it. And so we do that with all the love and grace that we can. And then we promise her, and we're true to that, that we will walk her through whatever she decides. And she will be loved and accepted here, no matter what she decides. And the proof is in the pudding when they return with a next visit of some kind, whether it's another medical visit or a visit for options education with a potential next pregnancy. They come back because they weren't judged. They were loved. They were helped. And in many cases, they were challenged. But there was something there that made them feel drawn to come back. And we're really proud of that. A few years, 10, 12 years ago, we added STD testing and treatment to our scope of care. That was important to just keep broadening our reach so that we can reach more people who are at risk for an unplanned pregnancy. We also have professional counselors in the building most days so that we can offer professional counseling to any patient who needs it. What we have found is that patients walk in the door and yes, they have a medical need that we can help them with, but all of the heart reasons and head reasons that brought them to this point are way beyond what we can do in one visit. It felt a lot like putting a Band-Aid on a gaping wound, and it just wasn't, we weren't okay with that anymore. And so if a patient is identified as needing professional counseling, we offer that at no cost to our patients. We also have a mobile medical unit that travels to Browning twice a month, doing all of the same services in Browning, Montana, which is a mission field in itself, ministering to a culture that truly, truly does not value themselves, does not see themselves as God sees them. And we have had such wonderful opportunity to connect with our Blackfeet brothers and sisters in Browning and offer them an opportunity to hear a different message and to see that there is hope beyond the life that they're living today. And then, at the very end of this giant funnel, like grabbing the most people, is going to be our new program, which is Well Woman Care. So we're offering annual exams and Pap tests for any woman who needs our care. And why are we adding all of these services at Clear Choice? It's just to make ourselves known to the right population, people who are sexually active, who are of childbearing years, so that when and if they face an unexpected pregnancy, they know where to come. Or perhaps the things we've said to them, the visits they've had with us, the words that they've heard, the education they've been given might change the course of their life so that they make different, more healthy decisions regarding their sexuality, and maybe, just maybe, they'll never face that unexpected pregnancy. And that would be amazing. I have 3 minutes and 26 seconds to tell you. I want to tell you about a patient that I took care of 2 months ago. She had been to our clinic 5 times. Every time she had come to us, she was pregnant and planning to have an abortion. When she came to me, I was just kind of filling in for a nurse who got busy. This patient was coming back to have her final confirmation ultrasound before her scheduled abortion that was happening in the next couple of days. And we offer that to make sure that a woman is really still pregnant before she has the abortion procedure. It's terrible enough, but imagine having an abortion if you've already miscarried or if the pregnancy stopped developing. So this patient came in, and my job was to do the ultrasound and give her that information. And I really just felt like after sitting across from her, that wasn't my job that day. My job was just to share a heart-to-heart with her. Yes, I did the ultrasound, and yes, we looked at that screen and she saw her little 9-week baby that's just starting to get little arms and legs and little fingers and toes. And a little tear came down her cheek when she saw that. But she just said, I can't do this. Here's my life. Here's my disaster. Let me tell you about it. And honestly, when she was done telling me about her situation inside, I was like, yeah, I can totally see why she thinks she needs to have an abortion. This is a disaster. But I just felt like that day my job was to encourage her and to tell her I believed in her and to say, look at all you've been through. She had already had one abortion and talked about the pain of that. So I challenged her and said, are you sure you want to do this again? Like, you know it hurt the first time. But when she left, she was still planning to have an abortion. And she was such a prickly little pear. She was a little hard to love, but man, I was just so drawn to her. And I just felt such a burden for her. And when she left, we hadn't talked about Jesus at all. And I just said, Susie, I just want you to know, Susie's not her name, by the way. I just want you to know, I know it says that you're an atheist on your intake paperwork, but I'm a Christian. And I just want you to know I'm going to be praying for you because this is going to be hard. And I came around the counter, I said, I'm coming in, I'm going to give you a hug. And she was like, wah, I gave her a hug and I just said, I'm here for you. I scheduled her for a follow-up appointment with us, which isn't typical, but she had had 5 pregnancies and planned to have 5 abortions. And I said, you need to come back and get on some type of contraception so that this doesn't ever happen again. So I scheduled her 4 weeks out, and that appointment was 2 weeks ago. So in the morning 2 weeks ago, I said to my team, because I wasn't going to be her nurse, I said, please make sure you touch base with Susie because we need to know how she's doing with her abortion before we talk about contraception. And like a half hour later, one of the nurses came and she's like, Michelle, I don't know what just happened. But I was asking her how she was doing with her abortion, and she was kind of looking at me strange, and the nurse kept kind of pressing and saying, well, I know, how are you doing emotionally, physically, are you all right? And the girl's like, my abortion was 5 years ago, I'm fine. And they were like, wait, what? She goes, I'm still pregnant. And they were like, what is going on? And she said, I came in 4 weeks ago and I met with that nurse and she just really changed my frame of thinking. And I went home and thought, I can do this. And so, yeah. Sometimes what it takes is just somebody understanding that they have value, that someone believes in them, and that somebody's going to walk that road with them. And so Susie's baby is due in April. And so you can think about Susie and be praying for her. One of the ways we make a difference is through our ability to get into the schools and talk about sexual health care and to teach healthy, what do we call it? Healthy lifestyles or whatever we call it. Sorry. And I've been doing this for 15 years, going into the schools and talking to middle school to high school kids about healthy sexuality. There it is. And I met Abigail when she was in 7th grade, and I went to her class at Stillwater Christian School to teach the sex ed curriculum. And Abigail, man, jumped right on board. She loved what Hope Pregnancy Ministries was doing, and she was like, I want to volunteer for you. She was in 7th grade. And so we had her emptying the trash and filing things, and for her whole middle school and high school career, she volunteered for us. But I will tell you that somewhere along the way, Abigail went from a girl who had her head on straight to a girl who started to believe the lies that the world was telling her. And she stopped understanding how God saw her. And so I want you to just sit and listen and watch Abigail's story.
I wasn't ever content just being me. I always needed to have somebody. And I definitely put my personal relationship with God on the back burner. We started having sex outside of marriage, and Abigail, you're pregnant. I grew up in a Christian home. I remember always going to church on Sundays. My parents are really good about taking us there consistently. I went to Swan River School in Big Fork from kindergarten up until 2nd grade, and then I was transferred to Stillwater Christian School in Kalispell, and I was there from 3rd grade all the way through graduation. I was very motivated to do really good in school just because I just knew that I wanted to do the best that I could so that I could get into any school that I wanted to. I was involved in what's called National Honor Society. So you had to satisfy a certain amount of hours in community service. And so it was through that I met Debbie Otto. She was the director at the Hope Pregnancy Center. I'd say for the most part, I had my priorities in check in terms of academics. But I always had to have a boyfriend. I wasn't ever content just being me. I always needed to have somebody. I would definitely say that senior year was when things just kind of spiraling out of control in terms of my personal behavior, and I definitely put my personal relationship with God on the back burner. I broke up with my 3-year long boyfriend at the beginning of my senior year and started dating somebody else. And I would say it was that relationship that really turned things sour for me. He didn't have the priority of, pursuing a relationship with God. And because I wanted to be with him, it just got pushed on the back burner even more. And then we started, having sex outside of marriage, and it just became easy because I just continually shut out my guilt, and I just got so incredibly numb to it that I just didn't even care anymore, and I just did what I wanted to do. So we ended up breaking up, and I started seeing somebody else towards the end of my senior year, and moving into that relationship with that same numbness that I had. It was very easy to start doing those behaviors all over again. So I graduated from high school the beginning of June 2017. I was going to be going to Bozeman for college. It was my goal to just make sure I was ready to go to Bozeman and my body was healthy and that my heart was ready. It was a really hard phone call, but I called Michelle and I told her, I'm not calling for volunteer hours. I need some help. I came into Clear Choice Clinic. They have everyone, as like a standard procedure, they have everyone do a pregnancy test. So I did that, and I went back into the counseling room, and Michelle and I just had a heart-to-heart. It was a really hard conversation because I hadn't told anyone yet about what I was doing. I'll never forget the look on her face when she came in. She told me, Abigail, you're pregnant. I remember how my stomach just sunk. The feeling of fear and shame just flooded me. And the instant thought was, what am I gonna tell my parents? Like, now I have to tell them what I've been up to senior year. A lot of the rest of my appointment with Michelle is kind of a blur. Yeah, we just went over my options. There's abortion, there's adoption, and there's parenting. So aside from being already kind of distant with my parents, they noticed that it kind of stepped up a level, and my phone was connected with my computer so that my messages could be seen on my computer. And I come home one day, I think I was at work, I come home and both of my parents are sitting on either side of the couch. I remember my mom just saying, like, is there anything that you need to tell us? My instant reaction was just deny until you die. Like, it's not ready, I'm not ready to share this yet. But they told us, like, we know, like, we read your messages. Because I had told a close friend of mine what was going on because I had to talk to somebody. And so after that conversation, I just escaped down to my bedroom and just shut the door. Because now I had to process that my parents hated me. That's what I thought. But I remember my dad coming downstairs, and he's never been the one to like show emotion ever. But he came down to my room and he opened my door and he just sat on my bed with me. He gave me a hug and he said, it's gonna be okay and we love you. And that was the moment I knew that I wasn't hated. I knew that they were disappointed, but they weren't gonna reject me. I still had my parents. I got reconnected with Debbie Otto at Hope Family Resource Center, and I started in their Earn While You Learn program. And I just was able to learn all of these things about being a mom, how to prep your house, how to emotionally prepare yourself. And we went into it not really knowing if Carter's father was going to be involved. So after my pregnancy was kind of announced, I knew that this was my reality now and I needed to just face it head on. I decided I wasn't going to hide so that I could be the best mom that I could be, because even though this baby came from a very sinful part of my life, I knew that God could just make a masterpiece out of the chaos and the mess that I had made of my life. And the Earn While You Learn program was so much fun. A lot of times we would end up forgetting the video and just having a heart-to-heart. It was literally just a therapy session for me where I could just spew everything out that I was feeling, and she would just make me feel so much better, because she would always be like, okay, well, how is God gonna help you through this? She would always ground me, and I had a whole new perspective every single time I left Hope Family Resource Center. So Carter was born on February 10th of 2018. People have asked me before if I regret the decisions that I made. And I say no, in an instant, simply because I wouldn't have my son and I wouldn't have my husband. My husband came into the picture around 8 months of pregnancy. I knew that he was in it with me for the long haul, and I had no idea that God was gonna bless me with that. He has the best relationship with Carter now. He's Carter's dad. Everything I could have ever wanted for my son, Tyler has provided every single day. So to the girl who finds herself in a similar situation as me, you'd be surprised at the amount of people that show you grace. And I think it starts with giving yourself some grace, and to know that you have options. I think more often than not, it's that overwhelming fear that it makes abortion your way out, so that you don't ever have to really confront that fear of having to tell anybody. The heartbreak that comes with taking that route is something that is lifelong. It's really easy to not think of the future when you're in that moment, because you're just in fight or flight mode. And you have to think about what 2 years from now could look like. But when you look at your child, in that moment, it's all so worth it. But there's so much support at your fingertips when you're in this situation, especially if you're here in this valley. Hope Family Resource Center has so many incredible tools to just help you get through this phase. If you don't have the money, that's okay. You just have to show up, do your little homework assignment, and you essentially earn everything that you could possibly need for this new baby while you take the time to get on your feet. My name is Abigail Hayward. I'm 21 years old. I'm currently in nursing school. Just started my 3rd semester of 5 semesters. Almost halfway. I have a son named Carter. He turned 2 in February. And my husband is a deputy.
Well, Abigail is a success story. She had an army around her cheering her on, but I think more than that, she began to see and be reminded of what God thought of her and how God saw her. I have a soft spot for Abigail. saw her grow up from a girl, and I helped walk her through this process. And as she was going through nursing school, she used to say to me, Michelle, someday I'm going to work for you at Clear Choice. And I was like, okay, Abigail, let's see. And she did it. She's one of my nurses. As a matter of fact, the other day, on Thursday before I left, she delegated a nursing duty to me. It's been so beautiful to see God make beauty from ashes, and he's done that with Abigail, and he's done that for countless of women and men who have come through Hope Pregnancy Ministries. And I just want to again encourage you and remind you that God's grace is for everyone. There's nothing we can do or say or think that he can't fix, that he won't redeem. And so as we think of the many ways we've made messes out of our own lives, let's also remember the beautiful and boundless grace of Jesus.